Centuries ago, amidst the fog of revolution and the thirst for independence, our founding fathers found solace in the warm embrace of coffee houses. These establishments were not just places for a hot brew. They became crucibles of free speech, where groundbreaking ideas were brewed, stirred, and served. In those hallowed halls, notions of democracy, liberty, and justice were not just idle chatter. They were debated with passion, shaped with precision, and forged into foundations of our great nation. Today, as we find ourselves amidst a whirlwind of social change, political divides, and pressing challenges, we need to rekindle that spirit. In these spaces, we can confront the most consequential social issues of our time, not as adversaries, but as allies in the quest for understanding and solutions. To the coffee houses willing to join this mission, let your doors be wide open, your atmosphere inviting, and your tables a meeting ground for diverse voices. In the spirit of unity, dialogue, and progress, let's come together and meet on the Coffeehouse Tour. Here's to the future brewed in the past. Hello everyone, I'm J.R. Larson, and today we're at Dreamshot Films in Fairfax, Virginia, in the shadows of Washington, D.C. The Coffeehouse Tour is a community conversation. Our objective is to get people to talk together about the most consequential social issues our country faces today and consider bold solutions. These are conversations powered by citizens of all ages, social and economic statuses, different backgrounds, and beliefs. Our goal is to bring you the constant variety of social topics and opinions in a timely and unbiased manner. On our program today, we'll explore the subject of our American economy. The economy is a broad and complex subject that touches nearly every aspect of society. The top social questions pertaining to the economy often focus on growth, equity, and stability, reflecting concerns about how economic policies and trends affect individuals and communities. On today's program, we're going to focus on three critical social questions related to the economy. How can sustainable economic growth be achieved? How can economic inequality be reduced? And what can be done to ensure economic stability and prevent crises? On today's program, we have three guest contributors. Please welcome Brian Grochowski. Brian is a husband and father of two. Brian is a former Marine, electrical engineer, home renovator, and a pilot. Brian is a recent FBI special agent retiree where he specialized in civil rights and public corruption investigations. He's now enjoying his new life in the performing arts world, creating fun and interesting content wherever he can. Please also welcome Shalon Lizelle. Shalon is a proud mother of three. Shalon has worked as a registered nurse for 23 years. She holds associate and bachelor's degrees in nursing, as well as a master's degree in business administration. Shalon is an actor, model, published writer, YouTube podcaster, and beach lover. Please also welcome Jason Daniel Thompson. Jason is an actor with over 20 years experience. Jason's a professional sales training consultant for the health and fitness industry. He's an advocate for unfiltered and independent thinking and a welcomed addition to our program for his fresh perspectives and reasonable insights. All right, let's jump right into our discussion with the first question. How can sustainable economic growth be achieved? What do you think, Brian?
So you have to turn on the economic engine of the United States and capitalism. There's two things that affect that engine really well. One is consumer confidence, and the other is the reach of government. So first of all, what people don't realize is that your income isn't just taxed once. Your income is taxed constantly through sales tax, excise tax, fuel tax, property tax, and so on and so forth. I think our founding fathers would be disgusted to know that over half of our income is taken from us in taxes each year. I know I'm disgusted by it, but so with that in mind, the government gets a piece of every single thing that happens in this country when you buy something, sell something, do something, whatever. And so the government can take in more money when people are spending their money. So people spend their money when they have their own money and when they feel confident that they can spend it because times are good. So to me, that consumer confidence is huge, and people keeping their money is also huge. The confidence thing is destroyed by things like inflation, high taxes, out of control deficit spending. The national debt is well over $30 trillion. It's infuriating as a taxpayer to see these politicians high-fiving themselves every time they pass a bill and spend trillions of dollars like they've accomplished something. I think it would be a wonderful thing if we could make it that politicians can't get reelected if the national debt exceeds 3% of the gross domestic product. It would make them ineligible for reelection, because it's just infuriating to watch it happen. Bottom line is, people should be keeping their money, and confidence needs to be good for them to keep spending their money.
Thank you, Brian. Some radical notions there.
I think they're common sense notions,
there
but
you go.
you know.
There you go. And Shalon, what do you think? How can sustainable economic growth be achieved?
Thank you, JR. I will tag on to what Brian said, especially with consumer spending. I think that is the driving force for the economy, and maintaining a high level of employment rate. I think our focus should be on that as well. And if we do so, then that has a trickle-down effect for many different factors that affect the growth of the economy. So maintaining a stable employment rate that will contribute to market stability. If we talk about consumers having money to spend, then corporations will then have those profits that they can take and put that back into investing into the company, which would then further create additional jobs for people in the United States. Also, I think we need to focus on infrastructure and maintaining our national infrastructure. I feel like the United States should have be a leader in the transportation industry itself. And we do not have an updated rail system, that would accommodate a speed train. If we talk about the airline industry, we know that has pain points that certainly can be addressed. And again, if we maintained our infrastructure of the United States, that would create those jobs, furthering people's opportunities to spend money in the economy. If we talk about deregulation, that has been effective in the past. However, I don't think, we should certainly keep that at the forefront. I think putting the money back into consumers' pockets really will drive the economy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Shalon. Jason, what do you think? How can sustainable economic growth be achieved?
Where do we start?
Over to Jason.
Where do we start? Well, I need 2 hours, but that's okay. Well, 2 minutes is good. Here's the thing. We have to unleash, you made a really good point, Brian. We have to unleash the beast that is the American economy, right? We have the biggest engine in the world. Why aren't we throwing any fuel in it? We are hindering ourselves. Why don't we let the gloves off? We're talking about taxation. I think it's ironic that in a country that was founded and started with a bunch of rebels that said, you know what, Great Britain, we're not going to take any more of your taxes. Thanks, right? Now we're to the point where we're taxing ourselves multiple times. There's a bureaucracy. I don't know about you, but I cannot stand the MBA. So why do we want our economy to be a mirroring of the MVA and all these bureaucracies? Unleash the talent. The great thing about the American economy, the great thing about capitalism, it can be bad as well, but the great thing about American capitalism, when it's done right, there's nothing better. If you unleash the talents and allow us to innovate, allow us to be free thinking, use our creative. JR, you bring your talents. Brian, you bring your talents. I don't know what we're bringing, but we're bringing something.
That's right.
Right? And so the whole point is that everyone's bringing something to the pot. And the whole thing is, if we unleash that, we're unstoppable. And we have to stop the dependence on Chinese economy. We've become a consumer nation. We need to become a producer again. We can't just be an information economy. We have to adapt. We have to evolve. Whether it means making our own semiconductors and taking Taiwan out of the picture, or whatever we have to do, we have to think light years ahead because the Chinese are. So I think we have to think in terms of innovation, think in terms of using capitalism to help us because the best ideas come forth. You're incentivized to create great things. You're incentivized to create new technologies. When was the last time China did that? Their system doesn't allow it. They have to steal ours.
Thank you, Jason. And some great ideas, observations right out of the gate. Any thoughts, crosstalk perhaps?
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of people that like to bash capitalism because a few people have the most. There has never been a system of government anywhere in the world at any time in our history where few people haven't ended up with the most.
Yeah, now you're right. Our system unleashes the creativity. It motivates it. It incentivizes that. That's
It
right.
really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our next segment, we're going to take a look at our next question. In fact, how can economic inequality be reduced? We'll be right back. And we're back. This discussion that we just had does lead to our next question. How can economic inequality be reduced? And with this question, we're going to start off with Jason. Your thoughts?
I think key word being reduced, nothing's perfect, right? There is no such thing as a perfect world where everything's equal, right? I think that would be kind of foolish. But I do know that the high tides raise all ships, right? So if we can fuel the economy, the American economy like we talked about, then everybody wins. We're lifting everybody out of poverty. There's no better system for doing that, okay? So I think the biggest thing is we have to increase opportunities. That's the key word, increase opportunities, allowing people to have the opportunities, the equal opportunities, not the equal outcome, equal opportunities. And then we have to disengage from the equality of outcome approach, okay? So, which is essentially socialism, right? So we want to embrace opportunities, obviously the outcome of opportunities, but we want to, hallmark of a equality economy is the middle class. And if you look at socialist societies, 1%, no middle class, everyone's poor. That's your equality. Everyone's poor together, yay. So what have we really achieved there? I've had the good fortune of dating a lot of international women. And I remember when my younger, more foolish self, if you can believe it, was talking to one of my girlfriends. She was from Russia. She was Russian. And I remember I was complaining foolishly about all Americans do is work. That's all we do is we live to work. That's all we do. And she looked at me like I was the stupidest person on earth. And she said, you realize that we work just as hard as you do, but we don't have anything to show for it. Mm-hmm. And I sat there and I took that in. And years later, I still think about that. And I think that's absolutely, we have to stop being so naive and so idealistic and really take in and really appreciate what we have.
Good points. Over to you, Brian. How can economic inequality be reduced in your mind?
Well, so respectfully, I kind of think the question's a little bit flawed. I don't know that we have inequality. I think we have people focused on the outcome. Based on building on what Jason said, look, our Constitution, and we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy, guarantees equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And, look, I got this friend who's an attorney, and in his line of work, he reached a certain point and he said, I want to commit to my family and I want to be there with my kids. So he was not this high-paced attorney looking to make partner. And in his line of work, he said, look, if you're not willing to sacrifice your family to make it at that high a level, then they look at you as what's wrong with you. You're expected at this age range to bring in a certain clientele, $5 to $10 billion companies for the firm. And then at another age group, they want you to bring in, $50 to $100 billion companies. And you have to keep working and working and building and building. And if you want to take time out for yourself and your family, it's frowned upon. And so you look at all these people in high power positions, they're there because they're making sacrifices that a lot of people aren't willing to make. And so, and they're typically men. I mean, I think men are just hardwired to do that. There are certainly women and there are certainly minorities that are incredibly successful, but statistically, they tend not to make those same sacrifices. You know, the divorce rates are super high with attorneys and in those high positions, those CEO positions, because the sacrifice is there. I think in my short time, I would also say to repair it, we need to stop teaching kids that they're victims of society, that everything's stacked against them, that there's racial bias and gender bias and all these other things. You're in the land of opportunity. You can do anything. I have worked with a ton of minority people and females, and they are incredibly successful because they never bought into the notion that they can't.
Mhm. Yeah. Good points, and I think we'll be doing some go backs in a second. But yes, there's clearly some different expectations based upon what your gender is, and women, females, mothers in particular. And you might have an opinion on this, by the way, the kinds of sacrifices that go in trade in the workplace, when you're in that role. But don't let me steal a moment of your thunder, Shalon.
Yes.
What do you think? How can economic inequality be reduced?
Oh, the wheels are turning. I think we first need to start with the basis of inequality, and that word is fair. It has to be fair. To Brian's point, I feel like, yes, the opportunity is there, but if you grow up in a society or you grow up in a neighborhood where you don't see a lot of that climbing the ladder, you don't see a lot of that, you really don't know that you have that opportunity. So the other point I wanted to make really was corporate America and the corporate tax rates. If we're talking about inequality, right now we have a disproportionate process, if you will, for corporations in America paying their taxes. Keeping the corporate tax rate at 20%, that might be fine for some corporations, but if they have billions of dollars of profits, they should not be getting a tax refund. Meanwhile, we have families over here that they're trying to get a $5,000 tax refund. It just is not equal in my mind. And also, I do believe that our corporations in America need to invest in America and American society when it comes to that. Looking at the traditional, 1%, those that own stock, and the traditional business model of, let's see how much money we can get our shareholders. I just feel like that balance right there is tipped to one side. And in order for us to really harp on inequality, I think we need to get rid of that. Let's make the most money for our shareholders instead of investing what we can back into our communities.
Hey, maybe this will lead us to our next topic. Actually, our next question? It's a different angle. What can be done to ensure economic stability and prevent crises? So we'll be back in a minute. And we're back. In our final block, we look at the economy from a different angle. What can be done to ensure economic stability and prevent crises? And on this segment, we go to you first, Shalon.
All right, thank you, JR. So I think we need to, again, I will talk about keeping the job market strong. If American people are working and they're putting those funds back into society or the economy, then I feel like that will keep us strong. And I also think, to Jason's point earlier, being producers in the United States again, and coming back to that mentality of innovation, creating new products that will be available for sale or trade, keeping that portion of it strong. Also, having a positive trade balance, in America, and preventing some of those negative balances that we have with, especially in particular with China. If we continue to invest in America, then I feel like we will keep our economy strong and further sustain. If something happens with the supply chain coming out of China where we do not have the products available here, we need to be able to pick that up until either that pipeline is reopened or shift to a longer term solution that is domestic. So I feel like if we do all of that, we will have impact to our GDP as well, and keep our positivity here in the United States. We certainly need legislative support for a living wage as well. Currently, we know the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. So you cannot have housing anywhere in the United States working 40 hours a week at that rate. So increasing that and continuing those legislative opportunities to further support American people.
Very good points. And Jason, what's your thoughts on how we can ensure economic stability and prevent crisis?
Well, you do have to have some social programs, of course. You have to have a safety net. We have to get Social Security under control, for one thing. There's rumors about us being bankrupt there in a few years. Who knows? But I will say, I'll go back to my original points. We have to unburden the economy. I think it's really important that we produce something, but also that we have highly skilled workers, right? And that just going to college is not the only answer. We have, trades that we're not going into. There are opportunities out there, guys. We're just not doing them. We're not taking advantage of them. It's not like there aren't opportunities, abundance of opportunities, but we don't want to fill them. So, not everybody wants to work on an oil rig. Not everybody wants to be a plumber, but we need those jobs, and they're good paying jobs, and they're highly skilled jobs, and they should be respected. I think if we respect those things, we shift the workforce to some of that. We become more innovative in other areas, and we stop the reliance of energy on foreign countries, particularly the trade stuff with China. I think that's a huge thing. Semiconductors with Taiwan. I think really we need to stop printing money, and that's the solution for everything. And of course, that's the politicians, and there's a reason why they want us to do that, because look, if you have all the assets and you're the 1%, politicians or otherwise, you want there to be inflation. That's what the American people don't understand. They want there to be inflation because they have all the assets, which means all their assets increase in value. And so they're again, the middle class gets screwed. So I think the idea is that, when you talked about wages, and I semi-disagree with you there. I think in some cases, absolutely. But I think what happens is where we want to look after the single parent mom, right? Or the single home mom that's going to work. And of course, but the problem with that is she's going to be screwed also, because she's supposed to get, 15 hours, and she's working for the local mom and pop store that now can't afford to pay her that. So they have to cut back her hours. So the original good intent there actually comes back to bite her in the end. And so in certain circumstances, absolutely, but not in every circumstance. So we have to find ways to increase value, increase her skill level, give her opportunities where she can increase her skills, and then add more value to the equation.
Exactly. And Brian, what are your thoughts?
So as always, I'd like to reduce the role of government, especially the federal government, and I would like to get back to states' rights, having states manage their own problems, getting to keep their own money. I agree with you on the minimum wage thing. What drives down wages is when you have free or cheap labor coming in across the border. It really drives wages down. When you've got people that are willing to work for that amount of money, people are going to pay that amount of money. And so, if we can get a hold of our illegal immigration system, we're going to start driving wages back up, because there's people that will refuse to work for $7 an hour. So I think the free market could probably correct some of that, a lot of that. I really just would love to get the government out of the business of creating business, because the government doesn't create jobs, the government doesn't create wealth. The only way the government exists is by taking wealth from people that have earned it, hardworking Americans. I think the government should provide only the very basics. It should provide infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, and national security and our defense. I don't think we should be using taxpayer money to fund art programs or any of these other pet projects that these politicians pat themselves on the back for. I think that only destroys and takes away from the incentive to actually go out and do some work. I've seen this firsthand, where it can work. I was in Arizona for 12 years, and I saw the city of Tempe, where we have big university, a lot of football, and they are huge on public services, free Wi-Fi across the city, and all these other things. And then you put that up against a city way out east, which was Apache Junction, and they have very few resources available to the community, but they don't have taxes either. And so it should be a personal choice. Do I want to pay high taxes and live in a place that the government provides these things for me? That's your choice. If you want to live in Tempe, great. You're going to pay high taxes. If you don't want government services, move out to Apache Junction. You're not going to pay high taxes, but you're not going to get a lot. It's a personal choice at the local level. You can't have the federal government mandating what people need to do. One size does not fit all.
Well said.
How about you
Yeah,
guys? Any
yeah.
go backs on that before
Absolutely.
we head out?
This may be another topic for a coffee house further in the future, but our school system, to Jason's point, we are not pushing students into those trades, and I think that's a very important
Very
point.
true. This has been a great discussion around the economy, and I want to thank each and every one of you and our those of you that are joining us today for this thoughtful exploration of issues and that shape our nation and our values. Remember, it's through respectful dialogue and a steadfast commitment to our principles that we can navigate the complexities of our times. Stay tuned. Future programs will tackle more consequential social issues, including affordable health care, drug addiction, border security, education, and religious freedom. Goodbye for now from the Coffee House, where every conversation is a step towards a brighter, more grounded tomorrow. The Coffee House tour has been sponsored by Jiffy Images, residential and commercial real estate photography, and Odyssey America Media. For a printed transcript of the Coffee House tour, send $1 and a self-addressed envelope to Dreamshot Films, 4580 Fair Valley Drive, Fairfax, Virginia 22033.